Shota Imanaga handed his first MLB loss as the Brewers beat the Cubs 10-6 yesterday. More bad news. Cade Horton exited his AAA start with an injury. We'll have more on that. Crow-Armstrong is officially eligible to return back to the big leagues. How soon will it be before we see him? That and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get in the comment section. Hit the bell, do everything that we need you to do to keep this channel up and running. Here is your invitation to our show. What's up, everybody? Anthony Pasquale here with Mick Gillespie. He's at Broadcaster Mick, and I'm Ant_Pasquale3. Mick, I thought maybe the Cubs could get a win streak going, but not the case. Cubs fall the Brewers 10-6 last night and now go back to 500 on the season.
So many bad things happened yesterday. It's one of those where you go to bed and you're like, hey, I just can't wait for tomorrow just to forget about it. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff. But really, I thought it was a bad day for the Cubs, whether you're talking about base running, whether you're talking about Milwaukee making all the defensive plays that they did in the game. And then obviously I'm going to be honest with you. I really was baffled by the Shota Imanaga 10 days rest. I didn't understand it when it was happening. I don't understand it now. He seems like he's totally out of his rhythm. He didn't have any of the swings and misses that we've seen in the past. And I get that, okay, we're worried again. Once again, we're worried about, velocity. He said he was a little tired last time, but 10 days and then this, I don't know. It's a shame because he had such a historic run going and it's all over now.
Yeah, and he ends up giving up 7 runs, taking his first loss on the season. To me, the frustrating part is if it didn't rain Friday night in St. Louis, he pitches. Like, he was ready to go that day. I think the most interesting part about it is that the whole move was proactive. Like, there was no reason that they did it. They're just trying to stop something late. Like, what if he gets tired and he's pitching a lot in July and he asks for a day off or like a spot through the rotation off? Fine, but don't do it when he's in the middle of a historic stretch and your best pitcher by a mile. He just looked completely out of rhythm. He was giving up hard contact, leaving the fastball a little bit too down the middle. I saw in the post game that he told reporters that he's sorry, which I just think is he's such a sweet guy. But
Love him.
you wish he didn't miss those games. This could have been the 11th start instead of the 10th, and hopefully it gets better next time. I think this is just kind of a bump in the road. I don't think it's something super serious. I think he'll get back into that rhythm very shortly, but that's what he looks like when he's not in rhythm, and it kind of sucked.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's so much of what goes on now in sports, not just baseball, but in sports. You see load management in basketball, where your star players aren't playing in the games and they'll take losses because, they want to have guys ready for the postseason. And then this kind of stuff, I get it. I mean, I know where it's coming from. But at the same time, I mean, this just didn't work right now. Now, maybe down the line it will. Maybe there's something that we don't know, and you got to look on at the other side of this too. And they may have something that they're going, you know what? If we take this guy out for 10 days now, we feel more comfortable about this or that. Because there's always stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I don't know, but just as far as rhythm, didn't look like the same guy. Didn't have the swing and miss stuff that he normally does on his fastball. They were jumping all over it early in the count. And it's a tough loss. I mean, it was a tough loss for him because it was just so fun. Shota Mania was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, and the comment section yesterday seemed to agree with your take on the Ben Brown incident. The report came out yesterday, since we're talking about load management, that Ben Brown's agent texted Carter Hawkins in the middle of the game and asked him to keep Ben Brown in the game. Obviously, Carter Hawkins can't do much about that and relay it down to Craig Counsell in the moment. Like, that's just not something that was going to happen. And I assume it was just a lighthearted conversation, but I thought this was pretty interesting that the agent was like, hey, keep him in.
You become immortalized in the game of baseball if you throw a no-hitter. You go into the Hall of Fame. That
Right.
game goes. Your cleats, your the ball, the last out. The guy needed 6 more outs. Baseball is going to have to incentivize starting pitchers staying in games, and maybe the way you do it is draft picks, like they're trying to do with allowing rookies to play as well. I don't know. But the problem is there's a couple problems. First off, your arm doesn't explode if you throw over 100 pitches. Your arm explodes when you try to throw every single pitch with max effort, whether it's spinning the ball or throwing the ball hard. Now, the game was better when the teams cared about achieving things like no-hitters. How about Wisniewski coming in? He didn't even know there was a no-hitter, and honestly, I saw that. You sent it to me from Jesse Rogers, our friend Jesse, and I'm going, yeah, but honestly, what's it even matter? I know the combined no-hitters are okay. I've called some of them, but it's not like having one guy do it. And I honestly, man, I just think that it's an indictment of the way that the game is right now. And I would love to see it go back to where there was a lot of pride in allowing someone to reach immortality with something that hasn't happened a whole lot in the history of the franchise. He'll never know. He had the kind of stuff that could have got it done. Bellinger made that catch, which would have helped him out as well there. So who knows what the real crux of the conversation that Carter Hawkins had with Ben Brown's agent, but I think that it would have been nice to see how far he could have gone.
And Kyle Hendricks came out of the bullpen in relief for Imanaga yesterday. Good 2 innings, which has been kind of his MO so far this season. That 3rd inning got a little bit dicey, gave up a sac fly and then a 2-run homer to Willy Adames, who, by the way, has to be at the top of the list right now for Cub killers. He gets us every game.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I love Kyle, but it's just the game's passing him by. He's kind of a player that they're just throwing out there and mop-up duty now, and that's not going well. It's just it is what it is. It's a young man's game, and he's not a young man anymore. I hope that I'm wrong, but it just feels like every single time he throws the ball, if it just bleeds a little bit the wrong direction, they're all over it.
Yeah, right. And there's really not too much more to add on that. We hope he can turn it around. We keep saying that, and it hasn't looked like it. Seiya Suzuki, obviously in a little bit of an offensive slump, but he's starting to carry it around the bases. Made a few base running mistakes the other night. Yesterday, a really bad one. It was 1st and 2nd, nobody out. It seemed like the Cubs were building a big inning to get back into the ball game a little bit. Cody Bellinger hit a soft ball down the left field line. Their 3rd baseman was able to get it, Ortiz, but he knew he had no play on Bellinger. It was 1st and 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
So Talkman gets to 2nd, Seiya Suzuki on his way to 3rd for no reason. I'm sorry, 2nd and 3rd, not 1st and 2nd.
Right.
Talkman scored. Seiya Suzuki should have stayed put at 2nd, instead ran himself into an out, and then it was 1 out with a runner on 1st instead of no outs, 1st and 2nd for Morel.
Yeah.
And it was just it's right in front of him. He's looking right at it. There's no reason you should be running if that ball gets fielded. If it gets into left field, sure, but it didn't, to the 3rd baseman, and he's on his way to 3rd. It was quite the blunder.
Yeah, there's been a few of those lately, and it's like, how do you overcome that stuff? When you're playing good baseball, you figure out a way to do it. When you're struggling like this team is, and it takes max effort to win any games, those things really add up. I think that he puts a lot of pressure on himself because he knows that he can be one of the best players in the game. Who knows how healthy he is after the injury? I don't know, but he hasn't looked the same at all.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the mistakes I can't stand. I'll tell you that right now. You hustle mistakes, mental mistakes. Can't afford those. And, honestly, I feel like sending down Pete Crow-Armstrong was a bad idea. And if you had him right now, some of these other guys are going to have to sit. And that's what Jed Hoyer said the other day. It's like, look, if we got to bring them up and, they're worried about at-bats, all Pete Crow-Armstrong did is go down to Iowa and just knock the cover off the ball and steal bags because he knows he's good enough now. Now it's just a matter of going to the big leagues and
doing it.
And grinding out every single at bat, getting on base and doing stuff. But I don't know. It's frustrating. Some of the mistakes he makes in the outfield are frustrating as well. We saw him struggle at the beginning of last year, and then after that, he just absolutely tore it up. He's just got to get back into that same rhythm again. But we can't sit around and wait for him and Bellinger and all these guys to start hitting. Either they're going to have to hit or let's get somebody else, and they might have to sit out a couple games here and there.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe what Suzuki needs is another 3 or 4 game benching like he got last year. Going back to the game just a little bit, Ian Happ homered again, so it looks like he's getting hot. But
or matchups too, or matchups. Maybe you play matchups.
Division too, which Ian Happ tends to do really well against. The other thing, the Cubs were like historically unlucky yesterday. Christopher Morel had a home run robbed. He's been in the midst of a really tough stretch. So is Dansby Swanson. He had a bases loaded fly out that their center fielder caught up against the wall. He kind of ran into it to make the catch. And then Ian Happ was robbed of extra bases, all by the same guy. Perkins might have turned in the best defensive game I've ever seen.
How about the catch he made? It was unbelievable. It was like Jim Edmonds' catch, he's running back and guys. I'm like, that's.
I saw on Twitter somebody put that catch next to the Reed Johnson one in DC way back. It was like he put on a clinic out there in center field, and he also added a double and a home run. Definitely the player of the game yesterday. But it brings me to this question: is Milwaukee the contact-oriented defensive powerhouse that the Cubs wanted to be? Because it feels like top to bottom, they're a hard team to punch out. They put the ball in play a lot. And defensively, up the middle, they're strong. In the outfield, they're stealing hits. That's what I thought the Cubs were going to be.
But also part of this, too, is they're just playing good baseball right now. And it's end of May. So you got a long way to go. The Cubs are kind of having a rough stretch right now. They're a better team than they're playing, and Milwaukee isn't as good as they're playing. It's plain and simple. I mean, it's just kind of the way that the game works. But the Brewers are just kind of locked in and they're healthy. The Cubs they've got these guys back, but I just don't know how healthy they are. So, like you hear from some people, they're like, if you got rib cartilage, fractured ribs, it takes 50 days. And he was barely gone, like 20 days or something,
right.
So I don't know. I know that they care and they're playing out there because they want to be out there. Morel had the ball to hit him in the foot. How long does it take for that to heal up? Cubs are just kind of in that stretch right now where they're dealing with a lot of different things. And the Brewers seem to be healthy and rolling. Ask me the same question in July.
Yeah. All right. We'll table it for now. We talked about this in the open and you just mentioned him. Pete Crow-Armstrong, I guess the rule is when you send a player down, unless there's an injury, he has to be in the minor leagues for 10 days before he gets called up. Today is the 10th day, so he's now eligible to come back to the big leagues. How soon do you think we see him?
I think it could be today. I mean, I think that they made a mistake sending him down. I told you. And look, I don't want to pile on Jed and Carter because, I do like those guys. I think they've done a rather good job. Not everything. We don't agree on everything. And maybe they could have done it. Maybe they could have signed some more relievers this year, or whatever. But I mean, all in all, I don't sit there and shake my head a whole lot. But that whole deal, I did. They should have just put Nico on the IL and brought up Vasquez. They shouldn't have sent PCA down, but they did. And I don't get that. I mean, the guy's he's definitely one of the best 26 players. You said that, and you're exactly right. But you need the fire and the spark that these young guys bring. And I think that's what this team's missing right now. And some of you guys in the comment section say the same thing, and you're right. I mean, you can tell when you're running the bases like that, and you're making mistakes and all that stuff. It piles up. They're not getting any production out of the catcher spot at the plate. Dansby Swanson has been just such an easy out. Although he just missed a grand slam. So, but it's like we're so programmed because of guys' salaries to play them and keep playing them and keep playing them. And I mean, Jason Hayward's is the best example of that. Everyone's kind of struggling right now. It's good to see Happ kind of getting back into things, but I think Pete Crow-Armstrong needs to be on the team. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't send down Luis Vazquez because I might put him out at shortstop some and give Dansby some more days off. That's what I would do. I'd probably designate Magical for assignment if it was me. I mean, I think that's the move.
Sticking with the minor leagues a little bit, Ethan Roberts has been really good in AAA. Matt Mervis led the Iowa Cubs to a win the other night, 4-3. I think he had a homer and an RBI single in the 10th inning. Michael Arias, a guy you saw in Tennessee, promoted to AAA. And Ed Howard, 4 hits in South Bend. What are your take on some of those minor league performances?
Well, Arias, he's on the 40-man, and I've seen him look good. I've seen him struggle, but he's got great stuff. The Cubs got to make a decision because they need that spot. Is he going to be someone that they can count on? They've gone out and they've signed all these minor league relievers, and some of them have been really good. So I'm sure that's part of it. Let's push them up and see what we got there. You don't want a situation where you release someone and then they strike out 13 guys in a row for the Padres, like right. Estrada, right? So okay. But then the other thing too, and this one is really scary, is that Cade Horton left with back soreness with the trainer. Not the end of the world. The Cubs have really, I think they've protected him. They should protect him. He's a huge prospect. So I'm glad it's just back soreness and not anything in his arm.
Yeah, back soreness is about the best possible outcome you could get for a guy exiting in the second inning of a start in AAA. I think when we originally heard that he had exited the game last night, I think the whole Cubs organization held their breath for a while.
No, and then, you can't do that to us.
Yeah, exactly. And then once you hear it's not his arm, great news. And back soreness, everybody's got back soreness, so he should be fine soon. Obviously, though, a little scary. He's obviously the Cubs' top pitching prospect, but they got a big league game today, a day game. So hopefully the Cubs can regroup from last night's loss and go split the series. Jameson Taillon on the mound for Chicago against Colin Rea, two guys that both teams have pretty good experience against. So hopefully Cubs can come out on top today.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, it would be good to split the series and leave on a high note. That's going to be one of those games last night that you go to bed and you think, we just stunk up the whole building.
Yeah.
We're better than this. And you come to the park and you're glad that it's a day game because you can get right back at it again.
Yeah, exactly. A good chance to redeem themselves, and hopefully the Cubs can do just that in Milwaukee today before coming back to Chicago for the weekend. That'll do it for us on the Cubs baseball channel. For Mick, I'm Anthony. Make sure to like, subscribe, jump in that comment section, and we will talk to you guys soon. Go Cubs.